Joining us now is Realtor Christin Peeples. And Christin, you have been in the industry for a while now. Have you ever seen this where people are hesitant to buy homes?
Yes, and especially right now with the interest rates rising. But I always tell people that don't let the interest rates deter you, to make sure that you are looking for the home of your dreams and you can always refinance.
Yeah.
So there's so much going on right now, but people need to keep in mind that inflation is lowering, and so we have to be optimistic about the interest rates, but don't let that deter you from buying a house.
There's been a few people here who moved to Detroit from other areas and were looking to buy a house earlier this year. You know, things were happening like it was either way overpriced for what it was,
Yes.
or they wanted to put an offer down, somebody beat it or put it down in cash, all of that kind of stuff. How can your everyday person navigate something like that?
Well, you definitely want to make sure that you are working with an experienced realtor. In fact, I am writing an offer when I leave here this evening, and it's so important to be competitive. It's still a seller's market. You want to make sure that your realtor is running the comps to make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck, making sure that you're not overpaying for a property, because you don't want to be underwater, and just making sure that you have someone that understands the ropes, the laws, and how to negotiate.
Right. And so how can somebody know, and you don't even have to worry about that IFB. You can put your hand, don't
Okay,
even worry
thank you.
about it. Yep. How does somebody know if they are working with a person who truly has their best interest at heart?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think people genuinely know. You can find out if a person has your best interest at heart in terms of actually listening to you. At the end of the day, it's finding out what their needs are and making sure that you meet those needs. So if someone tells you that they have an elderly parent that they want to move in because of a lot of people have people with Alzheimer's and dementia that they're moving in with them, as long as they're keeping that person in the forefront when they're making the decisions for them and making sure that they're accommodating the entire family, but also the needs, the specific needs that they're bringing to them. So it's all about listening and communication.
There have been a lot of us, though, who have had a hard time now and even getting into the housing market. Do you think it's better to wait a few months or just take a shot?
I say take a shot. Again, with the homes there's only one chance at getting the home of your dreams. And if you see the home of your dreams, you just make sure that you're working with the right team, meaning the realtor. Your realtor will normally have relationships with loan officers and people that will make sure that you get your offer accepted. So you want to make sure that you're hooking up with someone that has experience and that, again, has your best interest at heart, but do not wait. Do not wait on your dreams. You only live once.
Yeah,
So.
you do. But, you know, it can just be a frustrating process. But we have somebody else joining us now via Zoom, economic professor Betsy Stevenson, who is a leading voice in how the economy shapes the modern family. Dr. Stevenson, do you think that this growing trend of renting over buying will change the definition of the American dream?
You know, I think that people just need to figure out what's going to work best for them in their current situation and in the current market. I mean, higher interest rates have certainly pushed some people towards renting. But at the end of the day, a choice between renting and buying really has to do with thinking about costs and benefits. And so that's when we think about those costs and benefits, we have to think about things like how likely are you to need to move? How likely are you to need to have a different style of accommodation? Are you young, but you're going to expect to have a family? Those are the kinds of calculations that should go into that rent versus buy decision. And I think fundamentally that shouldn't really change based on how the economy is doing.
So all things aside, if you're unsure, then it's better to rent.
You know, there are a lot of fixed costs of getting in and out of the housing market. And so that's one of the reasons why it can be better to rent. You know, people often erroneously think that, oh, when you're renting, you're just paying costs to somebody else and you're not investing in your own property. But the reality is that there's something we call owner's equivalent rent. What's the cost of parking your cash into a piece of property? You could be investing that money elsewhere. Also, there's the depreciation and wear and tear and the taxes on the property. So every house that you live in, whether it's rented or bought, actually has some monthly costs associated with it.
As a renter, you are absolutely correct. Well, coming up, we're going to continue this conversation about real estate in America, turning to commercial real estate and its future as the work from home trend continues. Stay with us.
I don't know if there's been a better time to start a brand new news operation.
The newsroom was pretty much starting from scratch.
It's fresh, it's innovative.
Lots of energy, lots of passionate reporters.
Knowing what we're starting here puts so much joy in my heart.
We have reporters who are embedded in these communities.
Many people throughout St. Clair Shores have been fighting to save this water tower.
If there's a miracle out there, get a hold of me.
We are part of the neighborhood. Our newsroom is part of your neighborhood.
Residents here on Stansbury say they are fed up with all this flooding that keeps happening.
We shouldn't have to live like this.
Telling the stories that otherwise nobody would know about.
Now, AJ, you went to the downtown boxing gym and you really got to see how this gym is impacting kids' lives.
Yeah, Chris, as soon as I walked in the building, it was very uplifting.
It is a boxing gym, but it's more than boxing. You know, we do homework. We help them with the SAT.
When it comes to the weather, it's forecasting what's going to fall on your driveway, when is it going to happen, and how might it actually affect your day-to-day life.
Hundreds of people continue to call in reporting problems throughout the county.
Cleanup crews working all throughout Metro Detroit.
Get them down and get them cleaned up.
Local news to me means we're in your community, we're telling stories that matter to you, that affect you, that maybe we can get change and things done in your community.
She was born without a right arm, and then her legs didn't grow, I guess, the way that they should have.
But for 20-year-old Fortune High School alum Sumaya, she doesn't let that, or anything else for that matter, get in her way.
So you have a favorite button over there?
Yeah, do you want to, is it?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and...
This is my favorite.
I hope everyone watching that piece in particular says, I want to help that little girl and help that family and help get her to college.
Well, we are rethinking the way local news is done in the 21st century and how to tell the most important stories in a compelling way.
You can get news anywhere, but for us, we're a fresh face with a new perspective, and we're trying to make a difference in the community to tell stories that matter to you.
I think we're here to listen and actually hear what you're saying, and we're putting together a newscast that will show that.
I want to tell those people's stories because it's needed. Detroit is ready. Get ready, because here we come.
Reporting in Dearborn Heights.
Live in Wayne County.
Reporting in Adrian.
Live in Livonia.
Reporting from South Lyon, Kelly Vaughn.
CBS News Detroit.
CBS News Detroit.
Welcome back. We continue our conversation about real estate in this country. A new study shows that remote work risks wiping $800 billion from the value of office buildings in major cities worldwide by 2023, as the post-pandemic trend pushes up office vacancy rates and drives down rents. The McKinsey Global Institute reports that only 37% of workers go into the office every day. The change in the way people work has a major impact on the fiscal health of our cities. Joining us again, Christin Peeples is still here, and Dr. Betsy Johnson. Now, Christin, you have a lot of experience with selling these places to companies. So are you noticing that less now are looking for places to house their workers?
Absolutely, because of what you just stated. A lot of people are working from home, but then you also have some employers that are actually forcing their employees to come back to work for the reasons you just stated. Is the fact that they have this real estate and they have to pay leases, and they want to make sure that they have, and also to make sure that they're keeping the pulse of their employees as well, having them in the office. So,
Dr. Stevenson, are you still joining us via Zoom? Okay, I was wondering now, what are your thoughts on how this changing market is affecting the corporate real estate?
Yeah, to be honest, I've been quite worried about what will happen to commercial real estate since the beginning of the pandemic, because what we know is that the idea that people would work from the office 5 days a week, all the time, year round, it just doesn't seem that realistic. And we were already seeing tendencies towards more workplace flexibility prior to the pandemic. And what the pandemic did was just really gave a rocket boost to that. I don't think we'll ever go back to the way we worked prior to the pandemic, but we're still trying to figure out what the new normal is. How much will people work in the office? Who will work in the office? And what will they be trying to do in the office? This is obviously going to cause a shakeup in commercial real estate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see a lot of commercial real estate value go down. And some of it will have to do with zoning laws. Will we be able to rezone some commercial space for other purposes very easily or not easily? How will these transitions work? I think there's a reason for concern. It's certainly something I'm keeping an eye on, but I wouldn't rush out and say right now that commercial real estate is a big risk to the U.S. economy.
Mm-hmm. Now, Christin, have you noticed that you are selling less commercial real estate lately?
So we do have a specialist in our office that sells commercial real estate, and the commercial real estate is down at the moment because of most people working from home and the flexible schedules.
Can you see them maybe rezoning areas?
I can definitely see rezoning being an option for some of the as an option, yes.
Yeah, Dr. Stevenson, do you think that companies are forcing people to come into work, as we said? My brother is one of them. He's at home more than he's at work. He works from home. Just to keep those buildings under their control?
You know, I don't think that's going to be a major reason that companies are pushing people in. I think the bigger issues have to do with collaboration and training new workers, learning. These are really important things that companies are having to figure out, which is, you know, if you have an employee who's been with you for 10 years, they may be able to be very productive from home. But what do you do about somebody you just hired last week? Who are they going to learn from if they're only working from home? So it's that learning and training, cross-generational, different levels of experience. And then there's just also the collaboration. If you're working together with people, do you work together a little bit better if you get some face-to-face time? And so that's why I think what companies are trying to figure out is that, you know, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days a week? Is it 1 week out of the month? And then once they figure out how they'll be most productive, then they're going to figure out how they need their commercial real estate to work for them. I don't think many companies are silly enough to be letting their commercial real estate stock drive decisions that are fundamentally about workplace productivity.
Mm-hmm. And if somebody, for those companies though, are there certain things, I guess, that would be more beneficial to the community if they were to stay in those spaces?
Are you asking, are there reasons for the community for businesses to want to stay, or are there spillover effects? I mean, it's absolutely the case that, you know, if we see a bunch of commercial real estate go away because of the fact that people are working from home more, then you're going to see the people who serve commercial real estate or the workers in it, say the restaurants, the sandwich shops, they're not going to need to be located there. But we don't have to worry about that as sort of a big negative impact on the economy, because we still need those services. We just need them in a different place. So now we're talking about a situation where people need to relocate, and we've got a shakeup in the economy. And let me be clear, there are definitely going to be individual sad cases, right? If you've owned a business that primarily serves the workers of a company that's in a commercial real estate space, and those workers go away, then you're going to see, you know, your company's going to struggle. So there's individual struggles, but I think if you step back and you're asking about the macro economy, you know, we don't eat fewer lunches just because we're working from home. So we don't have to worry about, you know, overall there being some sort of decrease in demand.
Okay, now Christin, here in and around Southfield, have you noticed that some former commercial buildings are now being repurposed into other things?
Some of them are being repurposed. And then when we talk about, it also depends on the type of business, right? So you got, when we talk about commercial real estate, you look at your nail shops and places where you actually have to go in and get serviced. It's not necessarily a negative in terms of where we're going with commercial real estate, because of the fact that you still need those businesses that you have to physically go into.
Right.
It's just the actual workers and the office workers And a lot of companies are also moving to hybrid environments, working environments, so that they don't totally lose out on the office space, because who knows what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, nobody expected this to happen.
Exactly.
So things can change quickly.
Absolutely.